What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded. It is September 26, 2024. It is 4:13 in the afternoon. And thank God, finally, movement has come back to Spilita. If you know, you know. With that said, guys, we really needed a day like today. The rest of this week has been pretty difficult to trade, especially if you didn't catch the very few opportunities that have existed Monday through Wednesday. The chart today, we got nice movement down, we got nice movement up, and in both directions, you should have made enough money to be done for the day before the chart turned into something not worth trading. But the good news is we only trade, well, till 12 o'clock. And yeah, it was a good time. So let's go ahead and launch charts and see what we found pretty early in the morning. We had a pre-market range that we stayed pretty much within until right before open. We kind of broke out of it. Truth be told, we were expecting to consider calls because we were, at the time of charting and all that stuff, we were putting in higher lows. Now, higher lows typically means bad for puts. So I'm not interested in puts at the open, but I'm also not interested in jumping aggressively into calls at all-time highs. That's just not something that I do. Now, what we did discuss when it was 9:25 and it came to our call put scenario is you see, you will only find one line here, one white line. This was our put line, but potentially could have been our call line as well. Now, in order for that to be the case, what we wanted to see was Qs hold support of their pre-market high line here. If it did, we'd be interested in continuing up from there to at least the pre-market high on the Qs, okay? At least, which probably would have brought SPY right back up to near its pre-market high or maybe a little bit higher. So the original call scenario, if what happened leading into the open didn't happen, to be very clear, would have been, if it holds support here, we'd be interested in potentially taking calls off this line headed back up to the resistance that currently existed. However, as discussed every single day ad nauseum, if we are coming off of lower highs, i.e. 1, 2, I don't care how many it is, lower highs are bad for what? If you watch my videos, you know the answer to this. This should be something that rings in your head constantly. And if you don't believe me, go back on any day and look at how many times that if you would have bought calls that we are coming down to support on that were gotten to after a lower high, start tallying up how many of those calls would have failed versus would have worked. You might be surprised. It's not every one, okay? So just like I would tell you here, if you were interested in buying calls at support here in the morning, ignoring my lower high rule, this is only my rule, okay? And it held, I would have missed a call. I would have missed the call that would have paid me money. I'm not sitting here saying that situationally it changes, okay? If we are putting in lower highs, I am not buying calls off that support. I have criteria that would allow me to get into those calls more comfortably, and we will explain that in today's video as we do every day in our community. But we are putting in lower highs into the open. Every day, I tell everybody, guys, we are trending down at the time. Lower highs, lower lows is a downtrend, even though it might be temporary, it might be small, but at the end of the day, we are moving down. I'm going to be prepared for puts. And if we breach 574.30, I'm getting into puts and I'm aiming for 573.72. Hopefully. Originally, we were hoping just to make it to the blue line. It not only got through that blue line, Qs were breaking supports quickly. I don't know if ADD was selling off in the morning either. No, ADD was not. But again, I pay most of my attention to the Qs. I look for ADD for extra confirmation, especially after I already get into a trade. Okay. So Entry was breach. Why breach? Because, well, the last time we breached or got below that level, we were able to make it down to the next line down. Well, because we're trending down and we close below that support, naturally, our next expected move is to the next support, which is here. Okay? Well, at this time, things were still looking good on the Qs for the move to continue down, potentially, especially including closing below their first target low. We were really hoping to make it all the way down to the next target, both on Qs and on SPY, which was a very large space right here. Knowing it wasn't going to be a nice, clean, straight shot down, okay? Now, for me, I ended up getting stopped out of this trade at 936. I was hoping to continue down, and as long as we stayed below this line, that was what our stop loss was going to be for the people who held onto this trade with me. I put a stop order in and it got triggered at 936. So I don't know if it just, I had it too tight or whatever the case was, but either way, I would have been out of this trade on the very next candle either way. For me, that ended up being a 48.7% win. So that was a one and done for me. And yes, I'm still doing the one and done challenge. I will be until the end of this month. So a couple more days, I guess the rest of this week, maybe a couple of days next week. But beautiful trade. So we breached support. We made it to and through the expected support we were hoping to get down to because of that. And then we turned it into resistance. We made it down to the next support. Always an opportunity to consider taking profits. Qs closed below support at that point as well. So we stayed in and unfortunately got stopped out with a minor pullback that ended up being a ridiculous move to the downside. Now, here, what is the beauty of this trade right here? I'll tell you, because everybody wants to know. How do you know when it's a pullback? When do you decide when you're going to get into a pullback versus when you're going to skip them? I'm about to show you. Number one, what is a pullback? To me, it's when you go in the opposite direction that brought you to where we're going from, meaning we were trending down here, we're pulling back with no attempt to continue down, meaning we didn't put in a higher low during this pullback. Whereas, let's see if we could find one. Here, okay? Here, we are moving down. We pull back. We attempt to make a higher low. We do make a higher low. Not only was it here, but we made one here. I would not buy puts here. First of all, it's not really a resistance yet. It ended up becoming one. But if we would have pulled back to this yellow line coming off of higher lows are bad for puts. I would have skipped that trade. And if it would have held that resistance and continued down, I would have missed that trade. But more importantly is this. What you want to be looking for, here's the key. If SPY is pulling back to a level of support or resistance during a downtrend, sorry, I had that in the wrong spot. You want to line that up with Qs pulling back to a level of resistance on the chart. It was proven here to be resistance. It was proven in pre-market to be support. In a downtrend, pull back to resistance, not just on Qs, but also on SPY, right? Both of them, right at lines of resistance. This is the dream entry for pullback entries, okay? And it helps, I don't even know if it was at the time. It helps if ADD is trending in the same direction at the same time as well. That should give you a little bit more confidence. So I don't even know. At 938, what was ADD doing? Also starting to print red candles. Okay, so right here was the 938 candle. So again, we're in a downtrend on the Qs. We're pulling back to resistance on Qs, pulling back to resistance on SPY. In a downtrend, ADD is starting to print red, okay? At that time, not red as in trending down, but red candle, meaning momentum at that moment in the rest of the market is selling, okay? These are all benefits for puts, okay? So you're buying pullback so you can get your puts cheaper. And even if we make it down to the known support of the day, which was right here, which is why this circle is here. I told everybody, guys, here's your pullback. The very first target we're aiming for is the support we just came off of. So if you get in here, 474.05, and you get out here, 473.40, that's a 65-cent move. That's a nice paying trade. And you didn't have to suffer through the holding of whether this support was going to hold or not. Okay, so you made 30 to 35% return on your money in 3 minutes. If you took your profits when we got down there, where is the problem with that? Not even a hint of green candle. Where's the problem with that? Why can't this be all the trade you need to take for the day? Or this I can understand being aggressive. I get that. But a pullback during a downtrend, staying below trend line, all the things. Now, the reason you don't see any more arrows here is because I had not a whole bunch. We had quite a few people that were holding puts from up here and here, waiting for a gap fill, which was the pink line. Yes, there is an alert. We had an alert set on the chart. Now I was already done, so we switched to the 3 chart setup. See the alert right there? Once we got back below off of this lower high right here, and you held through the 10 o'clock candle, which I never recommend, that's what our target became. At least the pink line, we were hoping for the next support down. You see this right here, guys? Let me remind you. You see this down here? This was drawn. All of these lines were drawn. I didn't add a single line today at 8:30 this morning. Now let me show you where these 2 lines came from, right? Let me show you. We're going to go to a 1-month chart, 30-minute time frame, okay? Mind you, when I'm doing my charting, it's 8:30 in the morning. This is all I have, this yellow area. I put our first target low at where the top of the gap was that we created in the overnight session, right there. Okay, this was our first target low. We got to it. And then we have to fill the gap, which is where this line came from. Right here. You see that? So now take a look at what happened when we got through that line, turned it into resistance, and continued straight down to the next line. I got to turn this one yellow. We touched it. Happened while I was at lunch, though. Nope, I was back from lunch, but we were talking about other things at the time. So I missed that. And it held like a rock until it didn't later. But look at that level of support. Look at that. It's nice to know where this stuff is if you're trying to know when you should consider moving stops in place or maybe taking profit. But for those of you who got in up here and held all the way down here to the pink line, congratulations. You earned a buttload of money. Even at the pink line, this was a 200% win. Massive. That was a massive trade. And you had several opportunities to get out, but it was pretty comfortable after this debauchery up here. Continued down, slide your stops down, whatever it is. We redeveloped the downtrend again. And when does puts come off the table? All right, we talk about this all day. We're going to talk about it again right now. As soon as we close above the trend line, right? If the reason you're in puts or considering buying puts is because you're trending down, the downtrend is officially over when you break it. Okay? The downtrend is officially over when you break it, which was here. Now, normally we would be expecting this wedge to break low. If you're an aggressive trader, you may have gotten caught with your pants down and it didn't work out. If you're a conservative trader, you never got into puts because we never broke the line. All right. So statistically speaking, this normally breaks to the downside, but statistics aren't 100% on that either. So when calls, Jimmy, we talk about this every time. 2 criteria. Number 1, break the downtrend first. We did that. Okay. Right here on this candle. So that just means puts are off the table. Doesn't mean get into calls. In this case, in order for you to justify calls, you would have wanted to get above this lower high to the left. Because if we get above that line, we'd be expecting to run up towards this one. Okay? So let's put that logic to the test. We get back above the red line. We then breach this level of resistance here. You could have entered here, but you got to watch out because your next resistance above that point is very close. It tried to hold that resistance. put in another higher low, this is when you say higher lows are bad for puts. Don't buy puts at resistance. Expect it to break through the resistance, not hold the resistance. So aggressive traders get in after they see the higher low. And we closed above this resistance with a move to continue right near the resistance you would be aiming for. We got within cents of it. So yes, you could have gotten in here. You could have gotten out there if you're respecting support and resistance. Okay? We pulled back to a level of support during an uptrend. You had an uptrend line here. Could have taken it up to the next resistance, which is, guess what? Right here in this area. If we would have gotten through that, we would have been aiming for this one up here. And through that, this one. But Jimmy, I don't want to play calls. When puts, same criteria for the downside that we use to get into the upside. It's the same thing. Let's get a close below the upward trend line that takes calls off the table. We don't jump into call or puts yet. We got to get below support. When do we get below support with the candle close? Right here. Okay? You get in here and you hope for it to run down to the next support, which was here. We got that the very next candle, but as long as you hold that resistance, that support turned resistance, what you're aiming for, we were paying attention to the Qs chart at this point. We were wanting the Qs to break support and continue down to their next support, which was down here, which is where we had an alert set. And I told everybody, if we get through this line, and I had new members in there today telling them, specifically, Anna, if you're watching, this one's for you, Anna B-Day. She asked me specifically, when would you consider puts? I said, well, we just put in a lower high right here. So I am expecting this support to fail this time. This conversation took place before this trade happened, 3 minutes before. We're coming off lower highs. I wouldn't be considering calls here for 2 reasons. Number 1, we broke the uptrend. Number 2, we're coming off of a lower high. I'm looking for this support to fail, not hold. And if it does, I'm expecting SPY and or Qs or both to continue down to their next supports, which would bring us down to 571 even money, was my exact words. Anna, if you're watching this video, please confirm in the comments section so that you can let me know you understand and that this is how it really works in here, okay? And it worked out. Ended up staying below resistance, and we went straight down to 571 even money. The bottom of this candle was 571.01. Sorry, 1 penny off. But nonetheless, you get the gist of it, okay? You don't get in just because we broke the trend line, although it would have worked this time. Wait for a break of the most recent support you've created on the way up there, okay? Think about it. You're breaking the trend, great. But at the same time, the buyers that helped create the trend are still going to fight because they're not upside down in their trades yet at this point. However, if you close below that level, well, guess what just happened? All longs that bought at that level are instantly red. Now, they may choose to cut out of their trade at that point, which turns them into sellers, which helps the move continue down. Okay? That's the way I try to apply logic to the system, to the charts, guys. Because if you logically understand it, then it makes it easier for you to trust it. You'll be more comfortable accepting it. Okay? But please, as always, remember, lower highs are bad for calls, higher lows are bad for puts. Just remember those 2 things. Remember these criteria that I'm telling you about when you should be switching from calls to puts and when you should enter those. Okay? And after that, guys, we had a lot of people get paid very well today. I think the right now, it was at one point, our poll was 11 green to 1, 11 to 1 ratio. As of the recording of this video, I believe it's 9 to 1. Excellent job today as a community, guys. I'm super proud of you, and you should be super proud of yourselves. Congrats to all my one and doneers. It's a beautiful thing. If you know exactly what I'm talking about. And with that, we're going to wrap it up. So I hope you found some useful information in this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to join our Discord community, we'd love to have you. There's a link down below. And we have a good time in there. You're surrounded by a bunch of people who are there to learn, not cause drama, not be problematic. We all share our wins, our losses, our tough times. You know, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And if you like the idea of trading within a community, surrounded by people who are trading the same thing, the same way that you want to trade or are trading, this is a beautiful place for that. Okay. And with that, I hope you all had a fantastic day. Till tomorrow. I love you guys. See ya.